Hello, I'm State Representative Janine Nodder, and this week on Chatting with Janine, I have a U.S. Senate candidate, Corky Messner. Hi, Corky. Welcome to the show.
Janine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Is this your first time in Merrimack?
Oh no, I've been here many times. I've been all over the state many times, campaigning. In fact, we were talking today, and I've done since I've announced in September. I've had at least 250 events, town halls, committee meetings, talking to groups, visiting businesses, lunches, coffee with people. And
I like coffee.
Yeah, me
Coffee's
too.
Coffee's always good. Life-giving coffee.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've been all over the state.
Awesome. So you're CD1? CD2?
Yeah, I live in CD1.
CD1.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
oh, you know what?
I'm running for the
thinking
U.S. Senate.
Yeah,
I'm running for the U.S.
I saw your face and I went, oh, I did it again.
Yeah, that's okay. That's
so the
okay.
Senate goes to the whole state.
Yeah, the whole state.
Oh, see, that's good to know. Somebody might not know that. You have
Yeah.
the congressional candidates. We have first congressional district, second congressional district. Doesn't count for Senate. Senate, it goes all over the whole. So you have the whole state.
The whole state.
Good thing it's not a big state.
Yes, that's right. I've put about 35,000 miles on my car.
So how often do you have
September.
to get an oil change? Every month now?
No, more often than that.
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So it's a lot. But I'm enjoying meeting Granite Staters and listening to what their concerns are and talking to them and taking questions, and it's been a fun experience.
Thank you for saying Granite Stater. I was listening to a presentation yesterday, some college kids from Dartmouth, and they said New Hampshireites. I'm like, what?
Yeah, right.
No.
Right. Yeah, well, I've had my experience at Dartmouth too. I don't know if you read about that.
Yeah, I did. But one thing I wanted to ask you, this is what I ask every candidate that comes on the show, whether they're running for Congress or Senate.
Yeah.
What are the people asking you when you go to these town halls?
Yes.
What are their issues?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing a lot about is the opioid crisis,
Yes.
health care, beating Jean Shaheen, which I will do,
Thank you.
and the debt and deficits.
Okay.
Is important. So those are the main issues I'm hearing.
Okay. Well, I'm curious to know when people ask about the deficit or the debt, are they pushing? Do they ask for a balanced budget? And the reason I ask is because I used to think, oh yes, balanced budget, we have to have that. But then I think about it, if it's in law, balanced budget, I don't trust anybody in Washington. They could raise all the taxes to make the budget balanced. They're not going to cut their spending to make it balanced. They're going to raise taxes, or they could freeze assets. I don't trust them.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm running. I'm an outsider. I'm a successful businessman, and
Yes, we must talk about Chipotle.
Chipotle, we will.
Chipotle.
But it's
Chipotle.
Yeah, when I talk about the debt and deficits, I talk about the spending side. It's a spending issue.
Absolutely.
And we've got to get the spending under control. And the other part of it that I talk about is holding down spending and continuing to grow the economy vibrantly, because a bigger economy we have, will generate more tax revenue even with low tax rates.
The economy is doing fabulous right now.
Yes, and President Trump has done an awesome job with the economy, and given the what we're dealing with now with the coronavirus, is I think the resiliency of the economy that President Trump has put together will help us through this crisis.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether it's just me. I'm not worried about the coronavirus. I'm just not. There's always something out there that's to scare everyone, to panic. The SARS, bird flu, that N1H, whatever that was, and now this one. That's just me, though. I know some people are terrified. I've heard that there's no toilet paper on the shelves at the store, no masks available to buy, and I just go along not thinking about it.
No reason to panic. No reason whatsoever to panic. And because President Trump is doing a great job managing this crisis. I think first and foremost. I think there will be some economic impact from it because people are afraid and they're doing less things and they're spending less money, and that there'll be an economic impact from that. But because there's such a resilient economy due to President Trump's policies, I think the economy will hold up well and will come out of this strong economically when things settle down.
Now I want to segue into healthcare and the opioid crisis. And is that related to the homelessness in Manchester? We had talked before the show about you talking to the homeless people in Manchester.
Yes.
And is opioids the reason they're homeless? I have no idea.
Well, I went to Manchester to knock doors with Victoria Sullivan.
She's one of my best friends.
Yes, she's awesome. And I had knocked doors with her once before, and I went down to knock doors again. And instead of knocking doors, we decided to do a walking tour of downtown Manchester. And we were walking through Victory Park there, and we talked to some of the homeless folks. And I think the opioid crisis is certainly part of it. I also think it's a mental illness issue as well.
Oh, that goes along with health too.
And we conservatives are compassionate people, and we want to find ways to help those people, and we will. And then we went over to the fire station and talked to the first responders about what their experience is.
With the Narcan.
Yeah. But it's the one young man we spoke to who's homeless, clearly had a drug issue, clearly had a mental illness issue, and I would say a very bright young man, very articulate. And I was just, I was just surprised that, the mental illness, the drug issue, and a very bright young man. So
why do so many people have mental illness? Now there's a difference between mental illness and mental health, mental wellness, whatever.
Yeah.
They're different. I was at a hearing this morning about a drug asset forfeiture bill that got sent to another committee, and one of the witnesses who testified took out of his pocket an Narcan pack, and it was about this. This is Rick Santorum, but it was about this size. He held it up, and I'd never seen it before. It was just a little spray in a packet no bigger than this, that anybody can carry it in their pocket. And the first responders are really going through that Narcan, and it's a lot of the same people from what I've heard. I don't know this.
That's what we were told when we were at the fire station. A lot of repeat people, and some people one day, the next day, same thing.
So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is with the opioid crisis, but I do believe that locking people up is not the answer. It's not helping, and it makes them more apt to commit suicide, from what I've been reading.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where taking a compassionate approach is very, very important, that we deal with the mental health issues and as well as the drug issues. It's got to be a holistic approach, and people need help, and there's ways for us to help them. I mean, I went up and visited the Farnham House. And that's an awesome facility for people who have drug problems and mental health issues, that they can go and stay there. And I visited up in Plymouth the Bridges home, which is it's a very small facility that's run by a wonderful woman. Who it's a place for homeless veterans that has issues.
Like Liberty House? I don't
know.
Yeah,
much smaller than Liberty House, much smaller. She's got, I think, 10 rooms there. So one of the things I've found is the non-government organizations
work better
in New Hampshire are doing a great job, are doing an awesome job.
Well, the free market that's the way it works out.
Exactly.
Private enterprise is so much better than
Exactly.
the government, because then you have all the bureaucratic red tape. It just doesn't work.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree.
But in New Jersey, I remember when Chris Christie was running for president, he would, in his speech, he would talk about how they don't lock people up in jail when they're arrested for drugs. They go right to rehab.
Yes.
And so it's an investment. I was talking about it with the man in the control room, Justin, before the show, about that it's just not helping locking people up.
No, especially for those who are addicted users with mental health issues. Going to prison is going to do nothing for them, versus those who are distributing illegal drugs and profiting from it. Those folks should go to prison. So it's we need to do more to help people, and I think one of the ways you help people is the free market approach with these non-government organizations that are doing a great job.
I'm reading a book right now, about halfway through. I'm trying to think of the title. Scream is in the title, like listen to the scream, echoing the scream, or whatever. It's about the war on drugs from the very beginning, like back in the 1930s, and how the mafia wanted the drugs to be made illegal so they can corner the market and make billions. And that's exactly what's happened. And the chapter on the drug cartels, it's so brutal. They are brutal. They're very big business now, and now we're seeing the fentanyl come across the southern border. That's why one of the things that I say is to help fight the opioid crisis is we need to secure the southern border. There's so many of the illegal drugs come across the southern border that we need to secure the border in a meaningful way with a wall to slow down the flow of drugs. And those drugs, Janine, when they come across, some of them end up in New Hampshire. Do you remember the names Ramos and Campion?
No.
Did that ring a bell to you? They were Border Patrol agents. I don't know what year this was. This was 2007, maybe? 2006 or 7. They were Border Patrol agents. They shot a drug dealer in the rear end and went to jail. They were talking about it on the news, and one of them, I think it was Ramos, got beat up, almost very, very badly beaten in jail. George W. Bush was president at the time. I actually wrote to one of them in prison, and they wrote me back. I don't remember which one. And I was just getting involved in politics at the time. My show was already on the air. Chatting with Janine's been on since 2006.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But when I went to an interview to take a course in learning about the politics in New Hampshire, one of the questions they asked me is, if you could sit down with President Bush and ask him one thing, what would you say? I say, why is Ramos and Campion still in jail? They were doing their job. They were Border Patrol agents. The guy was a drug addict. A drug dealer. He got shot in the rear. He needed shooting.
Yeah, right.
So that was my 2 cents. But they weren't allowed to do their job. Our Border Patrol agents, they need to be able to shoot.
Well, and I think with President Trump, he's empowered the Border Patrol to do their job.
Good.
As well as he's empowered ICE to do their job.
Yes.
And they're having a tough time doing their job in these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states.
I sponsored a bill to prohibit sanctuary cities in New Hampshire, and party line, they killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
and some of the libertarians voted against it.
Yeah. Well, I think President Trump recently won a lawsuit about withholding funds from sanctuary cities, federal funds.
We have them in New Hampshire. I think there's 13. Manchester's one, Keene, and Deerfield.
Yeah.
They have sanctuary policies, rather.
Yeah.
So I will take back the House, and when we get back in power, but if it's at the federal level, then that should resonate in the states as well.
Yes. Well, and you mentioned taking back the House. It's very important. It's very, very important in this election. Right now, the only thing protecting us from becoming another Connecticut or Massachusetts or New York or Vermont is Chris Sununu. And
thank God for Chris Sununu.
thank God for Chris Sununu.
And all his red pens.
Yes, and so we need to win back the state House. We need to win back the state Senate. We need to win back the Executive Council. And I will beat Jeanne Shaheen and be the next U.S. Senator from New Hampshire.
Have you been practicing debates?
Oh, I've been practicing everything and reading everything and up to speed on everything. I've actually watched some of Jeanne Shaheen's debates from the past. So I am 100% committed to this campaign and have been for 9 or 10 months and preparing for this, and I will do very well against her in a debate, or anyone else for that matter.
Mm-hmm. You know, she has tons of money. I don't even know how much money she has. But does that worry you or not? Because, you know, Hillary spent how much money more than Trump?
Right.
4-1?
Right.
And didn't help her.
Yeah. Well, listen, you know, a campaign's expensive. I will have the resources to beat Jeanne Shaheen. I'm very fortunate. I've lived the American dream. I'm a rags to riches story. I'm very successful.
We have some time. We have about 10 minutes, so tell me your story.
Okay. I grew up in a blue-collar family in the northern part of Appalachia in central Pennsylvania. My dad was an auto mechanic. I left home at 17 years old.
I grew up blue collar too. My father was an auto mechanic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I left home at 17 and went to West Point.
Is that the pin you're wearing?
Yes,
Yeah.
This is the Academy crest, and I wear it because I have 2 sons at West Point right now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, one a senior and one a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated from West Point in 1979. While I was at West Point, I was on the football team. I was not a very good football player. I became an infantry officer. I went to airborne school and learned how to jump out of planes. I went to Ranger school and earned my Ranger tab, and I volunteered to go serve in Western Europe during the Cold War. And I led about 150 soldiers in an infantry company in Western Europe in the early 80s. And we guarded the Iron Curtain, and I spent some time in Berlin too, and we guarded the Berlin Wall. And I had the opportunity to see
Checkpoint Charlie?
Checkpoint Charlie. I was through it many times. And I had the opportunity to go into East Berlin and go into East Germany and see what a socialist country was like. And there was no hope, there was no joy, there was no happiness. There wasn't anything thriving there. In fact, in parts of East Berlin, in the early 80s, it looked like World War II had just ended.
Wow.
Yeah. So after I served, I went to law school. I got out of the Army, I went to law school. And I went to work after law school at a mega law firm called Kirkland & Ellis. That's the law firm that Bill Barr was working at before he became Attorney General. I worked there 5 or 6 years, and I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur and a small businessman. So I left there and I started my own law firm. And I had the sleepless nights of worrying about making payroll and worrying about, is there enough business here? So I know what it's like. All the small businesses in New Hampshire, I know what it's like. I grew that small business law firm, into a national law firm with offices in 9 cities from coast to coast, over 200 people. And we help businesses small and large. And about 25 years ago, a young man came into my office and said, I have a restaurant, one restaurant. I want you to help me grow this restaurant. I said, sure, we'll help you. And
I'm getting hungry.
yeah, well, that restaurant is Chipotle Mexican Grill. And they now have 2,800 restaurants.
We're big fans.
All over the world.
My boys and I, we're big fans.
A lot of people are. So I'm a job creator. I'm a problem solver. Businesses have asked me to solve their most complicated problems. And sometimes I was up against the federal government. So I've been up against the Justice Department. I've been up against the FDA. I've even had to navigate the bureaucracy at the Pentagon. on a few occasions to get some stuff done. I know how to get stuff done. I know how to take on the government. So.
Did you meet Colonel Nodder at the Pentagon?
No.
Oh, that's Uncle John. Okay.
So that's my story, and
that was fascinating about the Army and the Checkpoint Charlie. There's a movie I watched with my son about Checkpoint Charlie and when they put the Berlin Wall up.
Yeah.
And none of us said a word through the entire movie. We were like so engrossed in this movie. So I can't think of what the title was.
Yeah, I don't remember the movie, but
It's a few years ago.
Checkpoint Charlie is.
My boys have been there. I have 3 sons in the military, and I know at least 2 of them have been to that location.
Yeah, it's very. I was there about a year ago with my sons, actually less than a year ago, whenever it was, and it's very commercialized now because the wall's down and it's a combined city.
I remember when the wall came down. I remember watching Crossfire on TV with. He ran for president. He worked for Reagan.
Bush?
Like,
Bush.
No. He's a writer and he's well known, and I can't.
William F. Buckley?
Patrick Buchanan.
Oh, Patrick
Buchanan was talking to somebody live feed about the
yeah.
Berlin Wall, and he said, "Hey, get me a piece of that, a chunk of that wall," and he did. And there is a big piece of it in Portland, Maine. Right by that boat, DeMillo's. Yeah, walking to DeMillo's, you'll see it.
When I left the Army in 1984, I never would have believed that the Berlin Wall would come down and the Soviet Union would collapse.
Yeah, me neither.
But Ronald Reagan.
There's also a big piece of the wall at the Ronald Reagan Museum in California, Simi Valley. So if you ever make it out there, make sure you visit.
I have a great story about when I was in the Army. We were out on the firing range. It was 2 or 3 in the morning, and it came over the radio that Reagan had been shot.
Oh.
And
he forgot to duck.
Yeah, and I remember going back and checking from a timing perspective, and that we were notified of him being shot within about 10 minutes. Of him being shot, and we were out in the middle of nowhere in West Germany, so yeah, that was.
I have a party every year on Ronald Reagan's birthday.
Oh, you do? That's so cool.
That was my son.
Please invite me.
Okay, well, we had it on the air this year because my son went away to college. So Maureen Mooney, I don't know if you met her. She used to be a state rep, and Ellen Kolb, who also lives in Merrimack. The 3 of us sat here and we shared Ronald Reagan stories, and we had cake.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's on YouTube, which is where this show is going. And we have about 3.5 minutes left, and I would like to give you the opportunity.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. But your story's fascinating. I didn't know that about you. So thank you for telling your story. And I'm going to give you the rest of the time to speak directly to the voters of Merrimack and whoever's watching this on YouTube on why they should vote for you for U.S. Senate.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Corky Messner, and vote for me because I will beat Jeanne Shaheen. I believe in the power of the individual because I've lived the American dream, and I want to preserve the American dream for everybody in New Hampshire and our kids and our kids' kids. And the American dream consists of individual liberty and economic freedom. And I want to fight and fight hard to preserve those values. And as I say, there's no greater power than the power of the individual, unleashed by liberty and unburdened by government. And I'm a strong supporter of President Trump. His policies are working. I believe in limited government, low taxes, accountability, fiscal responsibility, and a strong military. And our message, the message of conservative Republicans, is an uplifting, positive message because it's about dignity, it's about hope, it's about opportunity, the opportunities that this country provides to everybody. And that's a very positive, uplifting message. And more people are coming to the Republican Party because it's such a positive message. And don't let the progressives, Don't let the Democrats talk negative about our positive message. It's a vision of this country that will make it even greater than it is today. And that individual liberty and economic freedom is what has made this country great. Jeanne Shaheen is a career politician who hides in the fog of Washington, D.C. And she hides because she's a progressive. She signed on with Bernie Sanders in 2017 to socialize medicine. They call it Medicare for all. I don't like calling it Medicare for all because that dignifies it too much. It's socialized medicine. And she's a career politician that only cares about extending her political career. I will beat her. I will fight for you. I will fight for individual liberty and economic freedom for everybody in New Hampshire. Please support me. Please vote for me.
Thank you, Corky. And what is your website?
CorkyForSenate.com. Corky.
Is that F-O-R?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Corky for Senate. Yeah.
Run it together.
All together. And Twitter. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And we've been out there, as I said earlier, at least 250 events since September, and we're going to be
251 after today.
yeah, and we're going to be doing more. So come out, and if you want to invite me to come talk to you, I'm glad to do it.
Mm-hmm. We're chatting.
Yes.
But thank you for being a guest on the
much.
show, and you can come back. We got lots of time before the November.
I'd come back anytime.
Primary September. So
yeah, I'll come back anytime.
thank you.
All right.
And thank you for watching, and I'll be back.